Welcome to another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law aren't necessarily monsters-in-law. And I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts who happen to be my daughters-in-law. So I have Kelly to the left of me.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I am married to Beth's oldest son, Alex.
And to the right of me is Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm married to Beth's middle son, Andrew.
Okay, ladies, you ready for another episode?
We're ready.
Let's raise our glasses because we know that you don't have to be a blood relative to love your relative. So
Cheers.
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 We have a really good topic today.
We do.
But first we have to take a sip. For good luck. So today it's all about a topic that I know you'll have some thoughts and chime in on, but neither one of you have experienced menopause yet. Although that is in every woman's life, because we all know there's the cycle of life and we start to menstruate at a certain age, and then we also stop menstruating at a certain age. And I'm here to tell you, once you get on the other side of menstruation, it's not a bad gig.
Can't wait.
Not a bad gig at all. But so we're going to talk about menopause today. And one of the things I always think of my mom with topics like this, women's topics, and her generation really did not talk about menopause at all. I mean, it was almost like a secret.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even think I really was cognizant of menopause until I was probably a young woman, in my 20s, because it was really kind of a taboo thing. But I also think too, that generation and her, and my Nana's generation and all the previous generations, I think it kind of was a very sad experience because their childbearing years were over. I think that that's where many women started to feel invisible. Mm-hmm. They didn't really feel that they had their purpose in life anymore. Their looks perhaps, started to fade because we do know there are a lot of hormonal changes that come along with menopause, and we'll briefly touch on that. We're definitely not experts, but I do have personal experience that I can share. But one of the things that I'm really very happy to see, and I've really seen this probably in the last 5 years, is that we are talking about menopause nowadays. It's not taboo anymore. We are more than happy to go off to our healthcare provider, ask questions, and want some results with symptoms that perhaps we have. Hot flashes, comes to mind. Brain fog is another one that, comes to mind. So that's why I really do think it's an important topic. But as I said, I'm very happy that my generation, we really have come along. We're pushing back the boundaries on a lot of things. And I think menopause is one of them. Mm-hmm. And it's also near and dear to my heart because then it paves the way for my daughters-in-law, or if you have daughters, our future granddaughters. So because I'm a big believer that the more information that we have, when we are fueled with knowledge, then we can make the right choices for ourselves, that there's no stigma attached to it. And I'm also kind of curious because we briefly touched on this when we were, prepping for the podcast, is cultural differences, how America views menopause as opposed to some other cultures as well. And also, so there is this it's a book. And so it's Your Brain on Menopause. And it was written by Lisa Mosconi. She's a neuroscientist and director of Women's Brain Initiative at Weill Cornell Medicine. And so she has a book called The Menopause Brain. New Science Empowers Women to Navigate the Pivotal Transition with Knowledge and Confidence, which is, honestly, the more knowledge that we have, the better are that we're going to prepare ourselves and then be able to navigate menopause. So she has some really great information. And as I said, like even when I was going through menopause, so I'm 65 now, it's probably my early 50s when that's typically, you may go through menopause a little bit earlier. I mean, it's like menstruation. They're different ages. So you may be a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later, or you may have an instant menopause moment if you have a hysterectomy. I mean, that's just like, that's boom when everything changes. But hot flashes, brain fog, sleep problems are one. But this book actually touches on what's happening to the brain during this life transition, which is really fascinating. So again, I'll recommend the book. It's Lisa Mosconi, and she's a neuroscientist. So, but let's kick this off. So I do have some personal experience, and I will bring that in. But Kelly, I mean, are you cognizant of the conversation about menopause?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I've been looking forward to menopause for like 10 years.
10 years.
I'm 47. I cannot wait.
So why is that? So why is that?
Why is that? Okay, well,
Some women actually dread menopause.
I know,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to talk about what that's like for Americans as it relates to other cultures. But I have never had very good periods my whole life. Like I was never diagnosed with anything as severe as like endometriosis or any of the really severe issues that a lot of women have with periods. But mine have always been, just quite painful and just a real pain in the ass, just really getting in the way of my life. Period products are expensive. They never seem to work like they say that they will. The commercials on TV with the women in the Tampax commercials, how they're wearing white bathing suits. I'm like, get out of here. Like, I'm sorry, but that
then
just
you got to get the organic ones. They try to make them scented now. I'm like, who is doing this?
Scented?
So, yes.
Oh my gosh,
why would you put that?
Sounds like that would be kind of like toxic.
Yeah, I think it is.
And I think I mean, I think that's a whole other conversation. The whole period thing. But I will just say though that I've had enough of a lifetime of having really not nice periods. And so I have, ever since I got to the point in my life where I knew I wasn't going to have children, I've just been like full steam ahead for menopause. Like I'm like, the choice has been made. No children are coming my way. So let's just move on to the next phase and get over this monthly irritation that just, always comes at what seems to be the wrong time.
So are you prepping yourself at all with by reading?
With a positive attitude.
Well, positive. I know.
No.
You're excited.
I have started reading The Menopause Brain by Lisa Mosconi, the book that you referenced. And I do listen to a podcast here and there where they talk about it. I think that the stuff that goes on in your brain on menopause is a really interesting. It's a really interesting topic because I don't think that we necessarily realize that something that we're experiencing is because of something like menopause, right? You just it gets lumped into the folder of I'm getting older and I can't remember why I walked into the kitchen, that kind of thing. Right. And men experience this just like women do, but I think it's interesting that they're finding out that like brain fog from menopause starting to happen in your body is something that can contribute to that. And I think that's a fascinating area of research. So that's interesting to me. So aside from that, no, I'm like so excited and ready.
Okay. Well, Chelsea, you're a long ways away from menopause. Chelsea's 34. Yes. And you are hoping to start a family. So you're light years away from menopause, but is that something that's like on your radar screen at all? Have you talked about with your mom, or do you know how your Nana went through menopause? Or
I mean, it's not really on my radar per se right now. I think right now I just am making sure that I'm healthy and that the periods that I have currently are healthy. And I think for the most part, I mean, I haven't been on birth control in the past like 7 years. So I track everything through an app, and at least per my app, it's pretty spot on.
That's good.
But I mean, as far as my mom and my Nana, I don't think my Nana had any issues that I know of when she was going through menopause. My mom, on the other hand, I mean, she had a double mastectomy because she had breast cancer. And then basically they ended up doing a hysterectomy about like 10 years later, I guess. I mean, it was maybe 9 years later, because I think it was last year.
Okay.
Or it was the year, but it was the same year that she got married. So 2022. They ended up doing a hysterectomy for her because she was actually having like extremely painful periods to the point where like it was almost like she was like bleeding out, and her,
so very heavy period.
Yeah. And
painful, and
her doctor was like, okay, we actually need to do something about this because it's getting serious enough that you could actually hemorrhage. And so they ended up just going in and basically removing everything. And my mom was fine with that.
They took our ovaries too.
I think they did.
Yeah.
I don't know if they left. I'm not,
because that's 100% that's the difference, right? So you can have a hysterectomy where they just take the uterus and you're still ovulating. So you don't actually go into menopause when they leave the ovaries.
I think they took the ovaries for her because I think
so
she,
with her symptoms, yes.
Well, with her symptoms, and
wouldn't want her to menstruate anymore.
Well, basically, I think they did because she was at a certain age. I mean, she was 57 at the time. So they were basically like, okay, you don't really need them anymore. Right. And I think the other factor to that was that because she had breast cancer, she was on a pill called tamoxifen for, the past 10 years. She's finally not on that anymore because they basically said, okay, you don't need to take this anymore. You've taken it long enough. But apparently with tamoxifen, it can cause potential effects of cancer in the ovaries or uterus.
Oh, okay.
Like ovarian cancer.
Yes, very cautious.
So I think they just basically were like, let's take it. And she hasn't, the surgery went well, and I guess that's something I probably should think about because she did go through that experience, but
Yeah, a lot of that is genetic.
Yeah.
Especially mother to daughter. And they're coming up with more and more research about how our DNA from our mothers go back generation after generation after generation. It's very interesting.
If they had daughters.
Right. If they have daughters. That's right. But if you don't, yes. but they do say that you will go through menopause very much like your mother, which is important then to talk to your mom about that.
Yeah.
I never talked to my mom about it. Because it just wasn't a topic that her generation talked about.
Yeah.
And actually, I think at one point, I did, come because I was like on the horizon of going through menopause, and I had heard that you go through it very much like your mom. And she said, oh, it was pretty much a breeze. Because she would, of course, she would say that. I don't really know if it was a breeze, but especially her generation and being a Midwesterner. And
did you feel like it was a breeze for you, or?
I can't say that it was terrible. It really was, but I definitely noticed a lot of changes.
Yeah.
You do have sleep. I did have sleep problems. I would wake up in the middle of the night in a hot flash and and then you just start sweating. Then you turn into a cold sweat, and then your pajamas are just absolutely drenched.
Yeah.
And you have to. So yes, I did go through those things. I can't say that. It's really interesting. This is when I would kind of like to morph into somebody else's body. So just to feel like just for a day of what their
experiencing,
what their experience is,
compared to yours.
Because it is hard to
know what the normal is.
Yeah, because everybody's idea of something is different when it's a body feeling, right?
That's right.
There's a pain threshold thing.
Exactly. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Yes. And like I just said, my mom was, Midwest, hardy stock and very stoic. So I don't really know.
I will say
if
my
it was
mom,
a breeze, I kind of don't think it was, but
my mom said that, she definitely went through the hot flashes and the not sleeping well. And I think she ended up going to my holistic doctor for a period of time because this was before the hysterectomy and before she ultimately decided to do that. But, nothing was working. And she was like, I'll try anything.
Right.
And he told her, and she actually did say that this worked. I don't know. I would obviously advise with your doctor before you do this, but rosemary pills.
Oh, interesting.
So they make pills that are just straight rosemary, and the effects of rosemary and female hormones, it actually helps women, I think, when they're going through menopause because it helps balance out the estrogen or something. And she actually did say that when she took them right before she went to bed, she would sleep through the night.
Oh, good.
Interesting.
So, nice.
Yeah.
It might just be nettle too.
Which one?
Nettle.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps you sleep as well.
Or it has a hormone regulating property that just kind of makes things a bit smoother. Like it's I think like a nettle tea or something like this.
Yeah.
Like drink it, throughout the month and whatever, and your periods are supposed to just be a little bit easier, but it also kind of gets you through that just the whole hormonal changes that happen to us every single month.
Right.
Which, when you think about that happening,
I know
it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's the whole all of the sort of funny jokes and stories that people have, about women on PMS and having their periods and all, how they change throughout the month. And it's just kind of an amazing thing when you really stop to think about how we undergo this, like, basically constant change in our bodies.
It's constant
every single
all
month.
the time. You're either
the hormones are just
on your period, you're getting over your period, you're gearing up to have your period, you're ovulating. I mean, it's just
it's a never-ending cycle.
It's true, and it's kind of like there maybe should be a little more space given to to women to be able to be
well, even
a little less
with the hormones. I remember I had hormone testing done. I mean, this was years ago, but my doctor that I saw, because I asked him, I said, well, do I need to go get blood work done? And he said, well, no, because that's pointless. He's like, the blood work that you have done today is literally only going to show us what your hormones are today.
Right now.
So basically I had to go through this whole spit test thing. And I guess that was the most accurate because it shows the fluctuation of the whole month.
Right.
But that does make sense, you know?
Yeah. In fact, part of what Lisa Mosconi talks about in the interview that I sent to y'all to listen to, she does talk about that, like as far as blood tests being predictors of menopause, because a lot of women want to know, like, am I close to menopause? Like, my periods are starting to get weird. Like, what can I expect? And it's a valid thing. Like, I wanted to know if I was close to menopause, and then when the result came back, they're like, you're nowhere near it. And I'm like,
I know.
But ultimately, it was a comfort to hear her talk about, and she talks about in the book of how blood tests just cannot be predictors. Like, the only predictor of menopause for each individual person is your own body. And when that's really the only way.
And when your body starts to actually go through menopause. Yes. Well, one of the things that I do think is important to talk about, and that I'm very happy that my generation has pushed back on this, because it really has been in the past 5 years because I do know that OBGYNs back in the day, they were not taking our symptoms as seriously as perhaps they should have. And it's only been in the last 10, 15 years that we have collectively just come together. It's like, no, we are having issues. We are having, our estrogen has changed. I mean, our hormones are fluctuating. So as we just talked about, everybody's symptoms are going to be different, but you do need, as a healthcare provider, you do need to be listening to us. And I'm really happy that so many OBGYNs now have really changed their practices and really are open now to listening and having a nice, viable treatment for women that need it. Because, I mean, our drop in estrogen, I was just looking back at this article, drop in estrogen is bone loss. It is sleep loss. It is brain fog. So these are important things that we need to be addressing. Yeah. And talking to our healthcare provider, there's nothing worse than going to a professional and not being taken seriously.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I am really happy that things are changing
100%.
On that front. But so you're happy. So you're not worried at all about menopause.
No.
Yay. So, and honestly, I can't say, I was really just kind of neutral. I really wasn't thinking one way or the other about it. I knew it was coming. Yeah. I knew that was the next thing that was going to happen to my body, but I never had particularly, my periods, everything I was always very healthy and didn't have any issues with that as you did, or and some of my friends did. So I was lucky on that guard, but talking about our healthcare professionals, and they are taking us more seriously now. So do you feel comfortable going into your OBGYN and talking about, or you probably have had conversations already?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And my general practitioner too. He's a really cool guy. I like him a lot. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Actually, every single year when I go and visit him for my annual physical, my hottest topic is menopause. When am I going to get there? And he's like, oh gosh, he's probably sick of me saying it, but I like to talk about these kinds of things because I already have experience. I used to sleep like completely well through the night, but now I do wake up at like 3 a.m. pretty regularly. And even if it's not to, go use the restroom or whatever, I still kind of come awake at that point. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a new thing. And I have experienced, like in bed, a hot sweat, and I'm like, I've woken up thinking, is this is this a hot flash? Like, what's happening? But I don't know. And I'm like, well, whatever. And I'll just roll over and go back to sleep, or try to anyway. But no, I actually really feel lucky because honestly, I think my GP is younger than me. My OBGYN is definitely younger than me. And so I feel like the new crop of healthcare professionals they're younger than me, and they've kind of had a different approach maybe to how what they're willing to discuss with patients and listen to and take time with you about, which is very different. I do remember than like some of my past doctors when I was in my 20s, and they were much older than me, and they had been doing it for 35, 40 years and getting to the end of their careers or whatever. But I do really feel like the younger doctors that I have they are very much listening to me.
That's great.
They don't try to rush me out of their office. It's a very nice relationship. And I definitely appreciate that. And I do think that's kind of a newer thing these days.
And one thing, I mean, we are all on social media because Sal at a certain age is definitely, and for those of you who don't know, I also have a YouTube channel and a blog, and we dish out style and travel and all sorts of fun topics. But so we are on social media, maybe a little bit more than the average person. But one thing that I've been very cognizant of in the past 3 to 5 years is the conversation over on social media about menopause.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I mean, it's not taboo anymore. It's definitely out there.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly has helped that a lot of female celebrities have gotten into kind of menopause product. I don't know how to, I don't know what that sector is, but like, menopause products, because they're either experiencing menopause early or not early, but they're experiencing it and they have a platform and an ability to kind of have their voice heard. So that's kind of a new thing too. A lot of.
There was that Naomi Watts. She had a company. I believe it went bankrupt though. Stripes. Stripes.
Yeah.
I think, right? Stripes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's skincare that was geared towards menopause and our changing skin, because it's not only, everything starts to change.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that, I can share my own experience, and everything does start to change, once you hit menopause, because your hormones are shifting. So we do tend to not only lose sleep or have brain fog or have hot flashes, but then our bodies start to change too. So you're probably going to see a little bit of a weight gain. You're going to see that your middle is thickening a little bit. I don't necessarily have a tummy, but my waist has certainly disappeared in the past, 10 years. I'm like, I look at
what happened.
Yeah. So definitely you see the changes there. And our skin, because there again, with your hormones changing, you're going to be seeing not only your face be a little bit more dehydrated, or I think that's one of the side effects, but the skin on your body too. I mean, you definitely are going to start to see a lot of different changes. And I think what I do like about the conversation is that it's just no longer a stigma. And because I do think, like my mom's generation, they did feel invisible once they hit menopause, a certain age. And also, do you think that so we can touch on this as far as culturally, because I know in America, we love youth. We covet youth. We worship youth. And so because our bodies are changing, and so we're not looking, we're not 20 anymore, but we still, there are many women out there that would still think that we should be. So do you think that other cultures, other parts of the world are facing menopause a different way than, And so kudos to America because we're changing the conversation. So I think it's on a more positive note. But I do know many women still feel very invisible when they leave their childbearing years and everything changes and they don't feel as attractive anymore. So let's open that up. Do you think other cultures are handling it a little bit differently?
Certainly. I think that I'm not sure. It must be some combination of like the kind of need to look and be young that America has an issue with, and also this sort of and this might actually harken back to an earlier time, so I'll just stick with the youth culture thing. But you look at a country like France or even Italy, where older women are just as sexy as younger women, and have been viewed that way and are looked looked to as being just as beautiful when they're 55 versus when they're 25. And I think that there's a reverence for older women in like I said, Paris or France and places like Italy and basically maybe Europe in general, but that America just never seemed to quite pick up on in the same way, And so I think that it's not only this idea of losing your looks and maybe gaining a little bit of weight around your middle and just being older, but also this, I think there's too much maybe importance placed on the vibrancy of youth in terms of bearing children in America that makes people then get to that point in life where they're no longer able to bear children. And then basically everything is over, and that's, I think if our culture had a reverence for older women the way some other cultures in Europe say do, perhaps getting to that point in life wouldn't feel so, just dampening to a woman who, is at that point.
That we wouldn't be feeling
right.
Well, I feel like in America too, everyone always says, "Oh, well, you look good for your age."
Right.
No,
the caveat
that's not really a compliment.
That's a compliment. I it's really, it's a backhanded compliment because it's like, why can't we just look good?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you look good.
No, I don't have to be like looking good for my age. If I'm put together, if I'm making an effort, why can't I just look good?
But also, what does that mean? What are you trying to say there?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, and it's really too bad. And I think that there are other, according to Lisa Mosconi, she includes this in her book, there are other cultures around the world where the wisdom of older women is so revered that they actually look forward to menopause, that point in their life when they get to menopause, because the women actually, they may no longer be able to bear children, but their children are bearing children, and they take on this maternal, grandmotherly, wise older woman role to the point like this is the next, like this is the highlight of my life. Like I worked really hard and raised my kids and got to this point, and now I get to, bestow
100%.
my wisdom and help my kids take care of their kids and just approach it with a completely different outlook that actually Lisa Mosconi points out that women in some of these cultures that think that and approach life this way, they experience far fewer negative menopause symptoms,
which is crazy.
That's interesting. So
less hot flash, brain fog, all of the physical symptoms that women, and I'm sure that there still are women that experience this all over the place, sure. But cultures that revere the point at life at which a woman becomes productive when it comes to having children.
That's fascinating.
They actually,
it's almost like American women are like mentally, not that they're not experiencing these symptoms, obviously they are, but it's like they're mentally draining themselves because of what society views them as. And then it's taking on a physical
when it's been
element in your body,
which we do know that.
Well, for generations, you're just ingrained to believe that at a certain point in your life, you should just go, go away.
You turn to dust, which we do not.
So who's not going to be afraid of that when you've
totally
generations? Who's not going to be?
I was going to say, I was thinking about this the other day, and this kind of goes into the menopause topic, but I guess. I grew up, and they're obviously older than me, but I grew up kind of admiring them in movies and shows, like Julia Roberts, Kate Hudson, Jennifer Lopez, all of them, which are now, they're all to the age now where they would probably be starting to go through menopause or are already going through menopause.
They're turning 50.
And I personally feel like I look to those women and I'm like, wow, they're like total badasses. You know what I mean? Because when I was watching How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or Pretty Woman, you know what I mean? And I was younger than they are.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, like how, I mean, do you think that society takes like movie stars like that are getting older and they view them differently that go through menopause versus just like your average person?
Well, I mean, I think it's only been recently that older women in Hollywood are actually getting the roles that they would want. And I bet a lot of them would even still say it's still too hard to get roles.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only a recent thing. Like you look back at a show like Grace and Frankie on Netflix, and it's like, it was revolutionary for those two 80-year-old women to get their own television show. And granted, they are Hollywood legends.
Yeah.
But still, like, I mean, just finding roles for, you know, any of these older
Meryl
actresses
Streep.
is, you know, for them, it's very challenging and nothing good ever comes their way, you know? So,
but I do think that the pendulum is swinging.
It is.
So that a 50-year-old movie star, and then that filters into regular life. So a 50-year-old movie star is being revered now.
Yeah.
Where 20 years ago, I mean, Meryl Streep was amazing, but I don't think she was necessarily revered.
Yeah.
For being 50.
Right.
And looking great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Which I guess
as a 50-year-old and embracing her age. So I do like that. So I do like that pendulum swinging, that it's more normal.
Well, there definitely is that filter down too. Like we, in America, we have these, you know, celebrities that people look up to. They kind of chart the cultural zeitgeist, whatever. And as they, you know, start to become more accepted and you start to see them,
into regular
it really
society.
does. It really does. And things start changing in terms of conversations that people are willing to have, accepting of, you know, certain post taboo subjects and, you know, stuff like that.
For sure.
So I do think we are definitely taking this stigma of menopause away. And even so, it's been 15 years. So I started menopause probably like 51, 52. I'm 65 now. So it's been, you know, roughly like 15 years ago. And I can really only remember like one book that was really, you know, kind of like our Bible, you know, to go to for symptoms and things like that. And now there are many books out there, which is also another good sign, because yes, when you start to have multiple news articles or, as I said, social media is just filled with topics or women, you know, talking about menopause. I mean, now it's kind of like, I'm kind of like, okay, now it seems to be, this usually is what happens. I mean, then it just becomes, we weren't talking at all, and now we won't shut up about it. So, but there again, I'm really glad that the conversation is there. So I do believe that the stigma is gone, even in America, about menopause. And I will just tell you from personal experience, I think it's like that menopause, I mean, going through menopause, because and when I do talk to women that are going through menopause, the silver lining is you get to the other side and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty flippin' amazing, because you don't have to worry. There again, I can wear a white dress anytime I want to, or, you know, white jeans, because I don't.
You don't have to worry about going to the beach or the swimming pool.
Things, right? Yes, right. Or swimming, or, you know, I mean, just all those things that, you know, when you're menstruating, you do have to think about those things.
Oh my gosh, I just went on this trip to Mexico and I was supposed to get my period while I was there. Do you know how much extra luggage I had to bring just for all my period care business? I mean, good night.
Well, yeah, because heaven forbid you get to Mexico and you don't have anything that you need.
Well, that's exactly it. I'm like, there's no stores there that, you know, what am I going to do? So
so that's the good thing. And also too, then your symptoms do start to diminish as well. So there does come a point in time, or I can only speak for myself. I do know that there are many women that are 65 and they're still on hormone replacement therapy and things like that. So there again, it's an individual situation. But I'm really just footloose and fancy free, and it's just pretty nice.
See, I think if there's any good vote for or good positive message toward menopause, you're a good spokesperson for it, because I think it's really nice to know, yes, a lot of women have such a hard time and they feel like they're in hell for years. But it is really reassuring to hear from someone who says, yes, I did experience some things,
I did,
but I got to the other side of it.
I'm telling you, there were some sleepless nights. And as I said, you'd wake up in the middle of the night. I would just be drenched in sweat. And it was just, I mean, you practically need to take a shower because you're just like,
we breaking a fever.
We have to start over here. I remember just being out, for dinner with my late husband, and I would just feel, the hot flashes. I always would describe it like an egg just kind of cracking over my head. Just kind of like, and just like oozing, and it's just like, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's not, at least for me, it wasn't the worst thing either. And I navigated through those symptoms and came out on the other side. But I am there, as I said, I've said it a million times, and I will be happy to say it again. We are pushing back the boundaries about menopause. We're talking about it and normalizing the conversation, which it should be. Yeah. It's just like normalizing the conversation about menstruation and having babies and all of those things. So absolutely. But I am fascinated about the cultural differences.
Isn't that a cool thing?
Yes. Yeah. Is that in
it is
Mosconi's book?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got her book on Audible, and it's definitely worth, I find it easier to absorb things through listening. So I've been listening to it.
That is very interesting.
But yeah, it's a really great, and
it makes you think mentally, what our minds can do.
Yes.
Just from, you know what I mean? Different experiences and how you grew up.
How you approach life. Yeah. How you approach things.
I do think our brain plays a big role in a lot of things that we experience.
It's our attitude.
For good or bad.
For sure.
Our attitude plays a huge role in that. And I will just bring this up. It has nothing to do with menopause, but my late husband, Mac, had open heart surgery several times. He was born with a birth defect, and so had to have his aorta replaced several times in his life. But anyway, and we lived in Rochester, Minnesota, Mayo Clinic, most amazing doctors in the whole world. And I just remember them saying that your recovery time from a major surgery like that, if you keep your body pain-free, so basically you can just administer your pain medicine at will, so you don't have to lay there and suffer and so your mind, not only is your body, going through the pain, but your mind is having to deal with that too. But if your mind stays ahead of it, they have studies that you will heal that much faster because your brain is also facilitating your body. Yeah. You're in control of that. So it's pretty amazing. And we're coming up with new discoveries all the time. Yeah. So, all right.
I like it.
Well, anything else we'd like to say about menopause, ladies?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Then we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with New and Noteworthy. And I love that segment because this is where Chelsea, Kelly, and I share something new or noteworthy, whether it's something that we've read, something that we've watched, or maybe we've shopped for something new. I don't know. We have been known to shop. All right. We are back with New and Noteworthy. And I love this segment because this is just fun because we are ladies who like to shop and read and watch TV. And we also like to share.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things. And that's one of the things I love about being a woman and having women friends because we do like to share.
Yeah,
we like to share our knowledge. So Chelsea, I'll kick it off with you. So what do you have that's new or noteworthy this week?
I have a show on Netflix and it's new, Bridgerton. So I guess it's technically not new, but the season that I'm referring to is new because
season 3 is out.
Yeah, season 3, but only part 1. So I've only.
Oh, they're splitting it between.
They split it. I know they did split it.
Did that?
I don't know.
No one is doing that anymore. It's such an annoying.
Well, and of course they split it on the episode that got really.
Of course, the cliffhanger.
Very
you have to have a cliffhanger.
Spicy, I would say. Spicy for Netflix, but it's actually. I mean, it's good. Sometimes I feel like I always vary with the show on whether or not I like it or if I don't like it. Because I feel like sometimes it's better than others. I watched the Queen Charlotte one that they did, and I actually really liked that one.
Is that a spinoff of?
That was a spinoff of Bridgerton, and it was basically the Queen's life that they, you know, showed like how she became queen and her life with her husband. And oh my gosh, at the end of that, I literally bawled like
really?
Like I was watching The Notebook or something.
Oh, wow.
Because I haven't watched that, but I did
The
see
very last episode. I mean, I won't give anything away, but like, I mean, I think Andrew came in and I was just hysterically crying. But this one, so this season,
like, hey, what's wrong?
I know this season so far, I would say is a little spicy.
A little spicy. Well, the first season, so I watched season 1 and season 2. I haven't watched Queen Charlotte.
It's good.
I did see the trailers for that, and it did look
good. No, it's really good.
But the first season, I'm like, this is like soft porn. I'm like, I was like, okay.
This one, I would say that this one definitely gets a little
spicier.
Maybe not spicier than that, but maybe on like an equal level. However, this one is interesting because one of the ladies that kind of becomes the main character, she has always been kind of in the shadows. So it's very interesting to see. And she's not quote unquote, like you wouldn't call her like the ugly duckling or anything like that. But I think she's the one that people just haven't really taken notice of.
It's on the down low.
Yeah. And this is kind of her season to shine. So it's interesting to see how they have spun that. But we'll see.
I love period pieces, and the costumes
I know. Yeah.
Beautiful.
They are.
Beautiful. I really like that.
Yeah.
That particular time in history in
Was
Britain.
Regency?
Yeah. Regency, yes. Because the books are based on romance novels.
Yeah. Romance novels. And
that's why it's a little spicy.
That's why it's a little spicy.
Bodice rippers.
But yeah, well, the girl that's actually the main person now, so she's actually Scottish, but obviously she has to like take on a British accent. Right. Which is also interesting. And she was in Dairy Girl. So I don't know if you've seen that.
I liked that show.
Yeah.
Okay.
The blonde haired girl.
Oh, really?
Claire.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know what Nicola.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Anyways.
But I might have to start watching
Bridgerton. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I watched the season 3.
It is.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm like back and forth. It's nothing.
Well, that's how I feel about Outlander. I mean,
yeah.
Although Outlander, I will say they do tell a good story.
They do. They tell a very good story in Outlander, but but Bridgerton, it's but it's, I mean, hey, I'm watching season 3 and looking forward to the
part 2.
Part 2 when it comes back, just in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kelly, what do you have this week for new and noteworthy?
Well, I have a book. Actually, it's a book by the very well-known author Amy Tan. So it's called The Backyard Bird Chronicles, and
that's an interesting title.
Yeah. Well, it's actually literally that's what it is.
Oh,
she spent several years bird watching in her backyard. And and has
why does I need you to tell us why this is something that we need to read.
Because Amy
loves birds.
Well,
I know.
I do fancy myself an amateur backyard bird watcher. I even have a list. Fun. I have my list of backyard birds. But Amy Tan is a beautiful writer. I don't know if you've ever read the Joy Luck Club, but I mean, she just has a really beautiful way with words. She's very thoughtful, very measured. And she spent years keeping a diary of bird watching in her backyard. So she would kind of talk about her, her encounters with birds. I particularly like the hummingbird part where she talks about how she, got the courage to hand feed the hummingbirds, and how when he landed on her, her hand, she just was instantly in love. She really has developed a really keen sense of the backyard birds in her yard and about them. She really learned about the birds and their behaviors and really pays attention to them. And so I have the audiobook, which is great because it's narrated by Amy Tan, and her voice is just kind of like butter. So it's really, really wonderful to listen to. It's a very soothing book. But the hardcover or the semi-soft cover book has her, she has illustrations that she did the illustrations of the birds, and she is a very accomplished artist. Like, I had no idea. And she's very humble about it when she talks about it, that she's, no Sibley or whatever, who is a very famous, and he actually wrote the foreword to the book, a very famous bird.
Well, that makes you want to buy the hard copy of the
yes,
book.
because all of her drawings are in it, and they're beautiful. And I think
don't have that with the Audible.
You don't, but I think what's really fun about that, though, too, is that you see her progression of like her skill in drawing these birds over the course of the book, from when she started just with like loose sketches, and she got finer and finer at it. She had always been an artist, apparently. But anyway, so yeah, it's a very, like, I love to have the audiobook on when I'm out in the yard, actually tending to my birds out there, cleaning their bird baths and feeding their feeders and stuff. So anyway, yeah, it's just a really great book.
Well, I have to check that out because I like to, I'm not as proficient as you are, but I do have bird feeders in both my front and backyard, and bird baths, because I know two things about birds. They like food and they like
they like
water. so I do try to provide both, even though sometimes there's just voracious eaters, and I'm like, I don't think I can afford you.
They're expensive.
And then the squirrels.
Yeah.
The squirrels also
they love.
I know. And then of course I'm buying the premium food, so that's also my problem too. But I think I have them hooked on that. But so I have a book, and I tend to listen to my books anymore, Audible. But I think that's really good. I'm glad you pointed out that she has the illustrations in her, in the paperback or the hard copy, because I do like to have a collection of. I mean, sometimes I'll just buy both. I'm just that.
This is
I'm that silly.
The Bird Chronicle book is definitely buy both, because it is great to hear her narrate. So,
and I will say too, with Audible books, sometimes it really depends on your narrator. I've had some books
they can make or break,
right? Yes. So I will just share. So I also have a book, and I listen to it on Audible. And a lot of times when I travel, I love to bring along a book, because especially like we're going to Tybee, or I have 4 hours there and 4 hours back, I can usually knock out a book. But this was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. And it was actually very interesting. It was one of those narrations where you had different narrators. So I think there were like 5 different characters that are
just almost like a radio play then.
That share their perspective. But anyway, so it's a wedding off of so it's an island like off the coast of Ireland. And so prominent couple. So he's like a movie star, and she's I don't know, some sort of a Martha Stewart figure that had made it big. So anyway, so there's a murder. And so basically then you go back into everybody's backstory. So that's how it is. So some people say it's a whodunit. I didn't really find that it was a whodunit at all. Some people were like, oh, this is kind of, she's going to be the next Agatha Christie. And I'm like, no, I did not find that to be true at all. But it was interesting. And I thought it was there again, going to the beach house, it's a beach read, super easy
read
to listen.
You just need those.
So I think it's a perfect book to take if you're on a weekend getaway, if you're going to the pool or the beach. And it really did. I mean, I was interested. It held my attention to the very end, because I wanted to know who done it. Because it was pretty interesting, and I did not. I'm not necessarily. Mac was always really good about that, piecing clues together, and I'm always the one. I'm like, huh? I mean, there are all these breadcrumbs. They're all these, red herrings, and I'm like, okay, I try to get better, and I think the more that you do, like, listen to mysteries and
you kind of pick up on the clues.
You start to
formulaic in some way.
But anyway, it's The Guest List, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah. Good beach reads.
All right. Okay, ladies. Well, we'll raise our glasses again. This is the conclusion of another episode of Message for Mom, where we are busting the myth that mothers-in-law aren't necessarily monsters-in-law. Thanks, ladies.
All right.